Hey everybody, welcome to week 3. I'm glad that we are moving on, and I just want to thank you all for your good work in week 2. A couple of things. First of all, an apology for those of you that were trying to access some of the Explore resources that I had at the bottom of week 2. We had sort of a conversion with Canvas this last year, and so some of the links and work that I had done got a little messed up. So I think I fixed all those. So if you tried it and you couldn't get through, please go back and try to take a look at those. There's some really interesting stuff there. And if ever you run into a problem where something's not working for you, just please reach out to Sarah or me, and we'll try to take care of it right away. Sometimes those details happen, and we certainly don't want to keep you from the cool things that I have in the Explore place for you. So be sure to take advantage of that. Also, great work on your discussion posts. I loved the ways that you brought yourself into these posts. The ideas that you brought forth, the personal stories that you told, some of the critique that you offered, or the wonderings that you have in the beginning of this class, like, well, what does this mean? Or does this apply in this context? Or does it really work that way? Or is it more complicated? These are the right types of questions that you should be asking. And so I really appreciate that. And I love the way you were interacting with each other. And I want to encourage you to keep doing that, because it's really through our putting our ideas out there and then interacting with each other that we really get better at sort of talking about this topic and raising the questions. And I think it helps with our thinking and also our writing, because this week 3 you're going to be working on your reaction paper. This is not a discussion post anymore. You're actually going to be writing a paper, and I hope that some of the ideas and interaction that you had in the discussion post will be something that will help you formulate this reaction paper that you're going to do. Now, real quick about that. Remember that the reaction paper is only 2 pages long. 2 pages, 12-point font, double spaced. You can't get around it. It's not a lot of real estate. So for some of you, you're like, whoo, that's not very long. And for others of you are like, oh my gosh, that's so short. How am I supposed to say anything? The trick and the challenge and the discipline here is for you to think specifically about a topic within the Arnett text that you're finishing up that's interesting to you and that you want to write on. And then how are you going to say it in a succinct sort of way? What's the topic? What does Arnett say? And what do you think about that? How are you reacting to that? Maybe a way to think about the reaction paper is this. Let's say that you're at a coffee shop back in the day when we could really do that. And like there's no pandemic, and you're sitting across from Jeffrey Arnett, and you've read his book, and you have this opportunity to ask him a question or interact with him on something that's important to you that he mentioned. What would you ask him? What would you say? How would that dialogue go? And what topics would you bring up? That's sort of a way to think about the reaction paper. How are you reacting to Arnett? And just a couple of other things associated with that. I think as we read, especially research literature, we have to recognize a couple of things. That a researcher is obviously coming to a project with some sort of back knowledge, some sort of narrative, some sort of assumption, some sort of research that has informed them to get to this point to actually do this. And so with that, then they're forming a methodology, and they're also having a very specific research question that they're trying to ask. So it's up to us as readers is to understand the assumptions of the author as they put that forward, to understand the methodology that they use, so that as they talk about their findings, we critique them and we listen to them based on what they're talking about, not what they're not talking about. So I think sometimes I hear this critique of, well, you know, Arnett talked about this, but he didn't talk about this. The question we have to ask ourselves at that moment is, was Arnett planning on talking about that? Or was that outside the scope of his project? Perhaps it's a great question and perhaps it's a great topic, but it may not be in the scope of what he was trying to talk about in that research. Now, if he says, look, I'm going to talk about this particular aspect of research, and then he doesn't do it, then I think we critique him on that. But we just have to be careful about how we engage with research literature. The best thing that we can do is, and this is great with just communication in general, is we want to sit and listen and try to understand his point of view and understand his argument. Because when we clearly understand his argument, then we can turn around and ask questions, and then we can engage, and then at some point perhaps critique. You see the line of reasoning there. So just sort of keep that in mind as you're engaging with this. That I think that's really, really important for us to understand as we engage this material, and I think you'll have a great time with it. You're going to get a chance to read each other's papers as well. That's super important to me, and you're going to get to engage each other through the discussion posts. You can't read all each other's of papers, but I want you to read a couple of each to see what other people wrote and what would you say about that. And let's just work together at being better writers, because when you're a better communicator and a better writer, I think you can really bless and support a lot of other people, which is really, really great. So have a great week. Finishing up more of what Arnett is talking about. I've got a couple other articles for you to look at as well. Take a look at the Explore section. I actually just dropped some new things in this weekend about Gen Z and the election. And I think that can be a really, really important topic associated with that. And maybe let me just say something else about the pandemic and the election and everything that's going on with that as well. No matter where we fall on how we're feeling or on sort of political spectrum, I'm just finding that as I talk with students that this can be a really tense and emotionally draining time. Perhaps you feel the weight of your own emotions. Perhaps you also are having to hold the questions and the stories and the critiques of others that you're caring for. And I just want to encourage you to make sure that you take care of yourselves, that you be aware of maybe what you're holding. And as you are navigating, especially this really intense time in our country and this really intense time in our pandemic, that you reach out for the help where you need it. We really care about you, and we want to support you in every way that you can, and we don't want to pretend like everything is completely normal. These are unique times, and we're all in it together. So may you find those spaces to rest and relax. May you turn it off when you need to, and may you reach out for help and in any time that you need that as well. So have a great week. We're cheering for you. We're pulling for you. If there's anything that Sarah and I can do, please reach out. Hope you have a great time looking at the lectures this week. We're talking a little bit more about some of the sociological forces that impact emerging adulthood, and I hope that you're going to find it really interesting. So until we connect again, have a great week. God's grace and peace.